in the Philippines. Thank you so much. And without further ado, Vrajvilas Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
So the first thing is everyone has to stand up. You'll see the number 2 over there, number 1 here, number 3 there, number 4 there. And so the first question is this your first Vaishnava Sanga festival? Number 1 here, if it's your first one. If it's second to third one over here, number 2. Number 3 in the back, if you've attended 4 or 5. And over to way in the back there, if you've attended 5 or more. Four to 5 is number 3, way in the back. And number 4, what happened to my number? Oh, there's number 4. Okay, number 4. If you've attended tons. Okay, look at this. Just like, Hare Krishna, look at this. We have a lot of devotees who's the first time here. And then people who've attended 2 or 3 is the second most. And then 4 to 5 over here, and then maybe at every one, perhaps. Look at that. And most of them are Prabhupada disciples. Okay, next question. How long have you been chanting Hare Krishna? 1 to 5 years over here. The second one over here is 6 to 10. Number 3, 10 to 30. And number 4, more than 30 years. Oh, there it is. Number 3 is in the back. Number 4 is over here. Okay. Isn't this interesting? Right, okay. Did I give you permission to talk? So look how many, we have so many devotees here, 1 to 5 years. And then a few, 6 to 10. And then a whole bunch, 10 to 30. Wow, look at that. And then, old timers. Wonderful Vaishnavas over here. Look at that. Great souls who've been chanting more than 30 years. Many of them more than 50 years, I can see. So that's really impressive. Okay, one more. But this is a presentation on questions. And so the idea is, you see, just by asking certain questions, you get a lot of information. Isn't it? You just look about, who's here at the Sangha. Okay. What is your favorite part of Krishna consciousness? Number 1, prasadam. Number 2, kirtan. Number 3, philosophy classes, seminars. And number 4, outreach.
This is one.
This one. Prasadam. What's that? Yes. Okay. I don't know if these devotees here just don't move. Where's the demarcation between kirtan and outreach? Kirtan is over here a little bit more. Okay. Kirtan. Okay, so we have kirtan. Look at all the kirtan wallas. But at least we have some honest people over here. Prasadam. Right? And then number 3, a few philosophical wallas and wallis. And then these people don't move. These great souls, they just come. They stay in place. They like to preach. Okay, thank you so much. So there's a lot of good information here. And congratulations for being so helpful. Okay. So we're going to hear about the power of questions. I'm taking a little bit of a risk because usually they say don't read a lot from a PowerPoint, but we're going to hear a lot of quotes, and hopefully you'll find them enlivening and inspiring. That quote that Maharaj quoted from the 6th chapter of the 1st canto, my God, we could just talk about that purport for the next 3 days, all of us. There's so much to unpack there. Actually, Maharaj, that purport really disturbed my mind for many years when I was a new devotee. Because I was like, I could do all the right things and still I don't get it? You know, because Prabhu says, yes. Okay, so we're going to talk about the power of questions, and we're going to talk about it in a number of different ways. Whoops. The quality of questions, questions from Shastra, and how questions can direct a conversation. Certain questions, like a couple of questions, practically whole cantos are created around one question. Asking how questions endear the questioner to the person who you're asking questions to. Asking questions for the benefit of others. We hear about that a lot in Bhagavad Gita, of course. Questions that help us avoid offenses. And questions as Vaishnava Seva. And then finally, perhaps the most important one, the one question that has affected all of our lives here in the most profound way. One question. Okay? All right. So the quality of questions. Prabhupada really got a lot of inspiration from Sanatana Goswami's question to Lord Chaitanya, where he just says, well, what happened? Ke ami, right? Who am I? Such a basic question. And Srila Prabhupada often would refer to this. Who am I? Why do the threefold miseries always cause me trouble? And then Prabhupada writes in the purport, this is the process of education. No, he was not a purport, it was a class he was giving and quoting this verse. If one does not ask, who am I? What is the goal of my life? But instead follows the same animal propensities as cats and dogs, what is the use of their education? So just that one question, again, that could easily fill up this whole Vaishnava Sanga festival, just talking about who am I? Such a basic question. Right? And then this is the question verse in the Bhagavatam. Okay. After hearing the 6 questions from the sages in chapter 1 of the 1st canto, Sutta Goswami says this, and then we'll see Prabhupada's purport's amazing on the topic of questions. So he says, O sages, I have been justly questioned by you. Your questions are worthy because they relate to Lord Krishna, and so are of relevance to the world's welfare. Only questions of this sort are capable to completely satisfy the self. So then Prabhupada writes, the questions of the sages of Naimisharanya are proper and just because they pertain to Lord Krishna, the absolute truth. And Prabhupada says, the Gita says that in all the Vedas there's nothing but the urge. What's another word for urge?
Necessity.
Yeah, desire, necessity, yeah. Or in Sanskrit, maybe lolium, right? You know, strong desire for searching after him, Lord Krishna. Thus, the questions that pertain to Krishna are the sum and substance of all Vedic inquiries. Okay, so this is really taking a risk. This next one is a little long, but it's from the same purport. But it's so powerful. The whole world is full of questions and answers. The birds, beasts, and men are all busy in the matter of perpetual questions and answers. In the morning, the birds in the nest become busy with questions and answers. Isn't that cool? The human being, unless he is fast asleep at night, is busy with questions and answers. The businessmen in the market are busy with questions and answers. And so also the lawyers in the court and the students in the schools and colleges. The legislators in the parliament are also busy with questions and answers. And the politicians and the press representatives are all busy with questions and answers. Although they go on making such questions and answers for their whole lives, they are not at all satisfied. Satisfaction of the soul can only be obtained by questions and answers on the subject of Krishna. So this verse 1, 2, 5 is like the verse and purport about questions in the whole Bhagavatam. And of course, Arjuna, there's so many great questions in the Bhagavad Gita. This first one, questions, and these are questions that lead to great answers, right? So look at this question. When Dhritarashtra asked, what did they do? And then in one sense, that one question, then there's the other 600 plus verses in the Bhagavad Gita because of that one question. Right? And of course, Prabhupada dissects it about, how he separates my sons and the sons of Pandu, and et cetera, et cetera. Or what about this question? Vivishwan is senior to you by birth. It was a very good question, isn't it? This question, right? You can see Arjuna kind of scratching his head. Oh, wait a second. What's going on here? Vivishwan, senior to you, how I understand in the beginning, you taught him. What gives, right? And then there's those great verses in the beginning of the 4th chapter. Is that for me? Are you waiting for that? I don't know if it fits with the head. Smell of carnations. You don't get this in India or other parts of the world. Okay, so, and of course, Parikshit Maharaj, so many questions. And Shaunaka Rishi, there's this one purport that begins Shaunaka and the Rishis, and I always thought that'd be the name of a great band. Shaunaka and the Rishis. So, what I mean by leading questions is questions that then produce these amazing answers. Okay, so this famous verse, right? Since Krishna has departed to his own abode, where are we going to find religious principles? What's the answer?
Bhagavatam?
Yeah, that's right. You get perfect. Yeah, the Bhagavatam. Yeah, and then this verse, his transcendental acts are magnificent and gracious, and great learned sages like Narada sing of them. Please, therefore, speak to us who are eager to hear about the adventures he performs in his various incarnations. So you could say, in one sense, like 9 cantos, at least, maybe 10. Is that still working? Okay. Answer this question from the 1st chapter of the Bhagavatam. And then this question, where and when did the meeting take place between Vidura and Maitreya? 3rd canto, 4th canto, whole cantos, because of one question. So I'm just trying to show the questions can be, one question can change lives, and can change books, can change Shastra. They're so important. And of course, this with Chitraketu, these are questions that endear the questioner. I always thought this was really interesting, all right, because Angira says, "O King Chitraketu, I can observe that your mind is not pleased. You seem not to have achieved your desired goal. Is this because of you yourself, or has it been caused by others? Your pale face reflects your deep anxiety." And Prabhupada used to say, right, the face is the index of the mind. So Angira could see that, and he also, but the real point I'm getting at is the next thing. Sukadeva Goswami says, "O Parikshit, although the great sage Angira knew everything," so he already knew that Chitraketu was in this great anxiety from not having a son. He knew it already, but he inquired from the king in this way. Thus King Chitraketu, desiring a son, bent low in great humility and spoke to the great sage as follows. So, why ask that question? Like we were just hearing about personalism. It developed like, what were you going to say? Empathy, yeah. And I was saying like relationship building. He knew the answer, but he was inquiring and allowing Chitraketu to reveal his heart, to reveal his mind, reveal his anxiety. And of course it pays dividends later on in the Leela, when Angira and Narada, preach quite powerfully to Chitraketu. So yeah, questions can endear. I think anyone who's gives a class, and when you get a really good question at the end of class, one that relates to the topic, for a change, so, right? You really feel grateful to the person who's asking the question, isn't it? Right? Yeah, it's really powerful. Okay, so the fourth one is asking questions for others' benefit. And this we get a number of times Srila Prabhupada mentions this in purports in the Bhagavad Gita in particular, right? That Arjuna says, O greatest of all personalities, O supreme form, though I see you here before me in your actual position, as you have described yourself, I wish to see how you have entered into this cosmic manifestation. I want to see that form of yours. And Prabhupada writes, the Lord can understand also that Arjuna wants to see the universal form. Why? To convince others. And he mentions this several times in this chapter. Arjuna did not have any personal desire for confirmation. Krishna also understands that Arjuna wants to see the universal form to set a criteria. So that's another way we ask questions sometimes, isn't it? We may know the answer, but we know there's other people maybe in the audience or something that would benefit by us asking that question. Yeah. By the way, I'd like this not to be a lecture, so anytime you have a comment, a question, a thought, please just raise your hand. And so far, some thoughts? Any questions on questions?
Small question.
Yes.
So he wanted to show universal form to all the people that were there for the war, right? Like he wanted everybody to see.
Well, yeah, but also to us.
To us as well.
Yeah. Matter of fact, I remember when I was in university, many years ago, I was comparing Srila Prabhupada's Bhagavad Gita to one scholar's. I can't remember which one. This is like 1977. And I remember several other editions say that this 11th chapter is the pinnacle of the Bhagavad Gita, when Krishna shows his universal form. And then we hear from the bhakti point of view that it's like, it's like chopped cabbage compared to Krishna's two-arm form. So it's interesting, but Arjuna is asking that, yes, to set a criteria and to convince others, as Prabhupada writes. Yes?
It's actually to convince the atheists that there is a God, these are his powers, and you should get with the program.
Get with the program.
You should acknowledge God is there, he's got all these powers, you have a duty towards him.
Yeah, Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami writes in the Chaitanya Charitamrita that we shouldn't neglect the understanding the greatness of God, greatness of Krishna. And that will make it easier for us to surrender to him. Yeah. Any other points? Yes.
So these are good questions to ask, the ones that you're pointing out.
Oh, good. Question is, how does the mic work?
Yeah. So on the flip side, are there stupid questions?
Can I give you a post-dated check on that? We're going to get to it in a few slides from now. Yeah, yes, there. Did you say stupid? I don't know if I want. There are inappropriate. Let's use there's inappropriate questions, yes. But your question just now was not inappropriate. Here we go. The next slide. Boy, you read my mind. Unbeneficial questions. That was my nice way of putting it. Okay? So, and I was quoting Prabhupada's famous purport in chapter 4, verse 34, where he says, in this verse, both blind following and absurd inquiries are condemned. So here's a few. Have you ever heard a managerially motivated question at Bhagavatam class? Like, oh Prabhu, Maharaj, so I just have a question, like, you were saying how important it is to visit the holy dhams. What are you supposed to do if your temple president won't let you go? Right? Anyone seen, they really try to suck you in. It's the biggest mistake as a speaker is to get sucked into those kind of questions. Yeah, the simple thing is we can talk after class. Yeah. Questions that have nothing to do with the class. We kind of mentioned that already, You gave a class about questions, and someone talks about, ask you about varnashram or, how to offer prasadam, and it's not. It's just as a speaker, it's not very inspiring. right? You know, you especially if you prepared something, you spoke, you kept to a certain theme, and then someone just out of the blue, yeah. Questions with ulterior motives. It's kind of like the first one. Well, especially this one, shopping around for desired answers. Everyone's going, oh. You've seen that one before? Right? You know, you go to as many senior devotees as you need to until you get the answer that you want. Yeah, right. That could be disingenuous, maybe another good word for it. And then I like this one, you know, Prabhupada was asked by the reporter, if you know all the ways to fly, why did you fly American Airlines to Dallas? And it was this absurd question, but Prabhupada gave a great answer, to be one with you. It wasn't the great, Prabhupada got some pretty bad questions sometimes from reporters, but every now and then he got some great ones. Okay, so I rewrote Shastra here, so forgive me. Okay, but the number one cause of conflict, I think we mentioned this last year or the year before, in ISKCON, in the world, in families, whatever, is when we make assumptions that end up being incorrect. Okay, so these are two famous ones here. You know, when Parvati and Chitraketu, right, and of course a lot happened because of that assumption that Parvati made about Chitraketu's intentions. Right? I mean, in one sense, it was great because we heard about Vritrasura and but still, imagine if Parvati would have said, instead of just cursing him, it looks to me like you were making fun of my husband. You said, quote, how wonderful it is that Lord Mahadev, although a great master of austerity, is embracing his wife openly in the midst of an assembly of great sages. What do you have to say about that? Were you criticizing my husband? Imagine, and then of course she would, no, I wasn't criticizing, please, I was not criticizing what she would, right? It would have, it's a way when we make assumptions to test them, to see if we were right. Because it's a great way to avoid Vaishnava aparad. It's a great way to improve relationships, or at least not have them go sour. Or imagine Sachi Devi, Lord Chaitanya's mother, saying to Advaita Acharya, my son Vishwarup just took sannyas. I see he was associating with you a lot lately, right? So you know how we jump to conclusions? We see somebody hanging out with somebody else. Oh, yeah. I'm assuming you preached to him to renounce the world. Still, I thought it best to check with you before jumping to conclusions. So, that's not how it played out. Of course, these are all Lord Chaitanya and Krishna's Leela, but you get the idea that sometimes questions in what Maharaj, you talked about, I think you also mentioned it, but there's that joke, not joke, but jumping to conclusions should become an Olympic sport, because we do it so often. 1 + 1 = 10, and we just off our mind goes to the races. And it's definitely the number one cause for conflict in any organization. In my work, 60% of the conflicts that I deal with are people making some kind of assumption about others or their behavior or what happened. Questions, comments on? So the mantra is to be curious instead of judgmental, and to be able to separate. Just what you see, like Sachi Devi, she saw, okay, Advaita Acharya is spending time with Vishwarup. That's a neutral observation, right? But then the interpretation is, he and, Vishwarup took sannyas, Advaita Acharya preached to him, and then the next step, bad Advaita Acharya, he did a bad thing. And how long does it take to go from the observation to that evaluation? It takes a few seconds. Thoughts on this? You see somebody's hand that I don't see. Oh.
If you've ever been to court, there's a whole procedure by which you can't just come with hearsay. You know, you really got to come and show proof of everything you say. And because I own apartments, I've been to courts, you know, rental courts and all that, and it's a whole different procedure where you have to prove to the judge what you're saying. And like I had one case, and the judge first question is, do you live in the building? No. Well, you're whatever you're saying is useless. Because you don't live there, right? You may own the building, but you don't live there. So you better bring a witness, like a tenant or someone else. So sometimes we express things and so forth, but like you're pointing out, we really don't have the facts. It's just hearsay.
Yeah.
And when we hear someone say things, we shouldn't just swallow it. We should question, where's your reference? Where are you coming? And sometimes that may sober up the person.
Yeah.
I don't want just to hear, you know, gossip or hearsay. Tell me what you really know for sure, and then I can go and confirm that with the other person who's involved, and then I can draw my conclusion. Because if I'm just hearing hearsay, I'm just empowering you to keep going. I'm not actually correcting you, the way you're proceeding, the way you operate.
Nice.
And I'm actually not doing justice to you also.
Yeah, it's sometimes a simple question like, what makes you think that way? And then they kind of like, oh, it seems like Advaitacharya was kind of really speaking, and they start kind of thinking a little more clearly. There's so many examples. Can you think about, the classic example in the Shastra is Parikshit Maharaj assuming Samak Rishi is faking samadhi when garlanding him with a dead snake. But there's so many, when you think about it, the Shastra is just full of teaching us about not jumping to conclusions. Anyone think of another one? Vibhishana, when if you see some of the pictures, the monkey warriors are like, yeah, right. They totally assumed that he was a wolf in sheep's clothing, right? And only Hanuman and Lord Ram understood that he was actually sincere. But they definitely were of the assumption that no, we don't want anything to do with him. And then, anyway, if we sat here, well, there's 100 of us here. Does anyone think of at least one more? Yes.
When he saw all the monkeys.
Who?
Sampati, Jatayu's brother. He made an assumption when he saw all the monkeys. When he found out, when he heard Jatayu's name, then he realized that he was thinking of them wrongly. He was assuming they were there they were going to die there and he could just eat them. But in reality, they were on a mission, and he didn't understand that until he slowed down.
Someone else have another hand up? Yes.
Vibhishan, when he returned to basically join Lord Ram, all other soldiers said no, he's actually not in favor, but he's trying to understand how our military is. But Lord understood that yes, he is effective.
Okay. Very good. Morris, did you have one? I was going to say Shringi. Yeah. Okay. So what I'm trying to get at is that we really can learn this lesson. It's a very practical lesson from the Shastra. It would be something else if there was no assumptions, but just, modern psychology says this, but the Shastra is full of examples of jumping to conclusions. Yes, Prabhu? Bali and Sugriv. What was the assumption?
Sugriv went inside the cave and Bali closed the door, and when he tries to come out, he thought that his brother betrayed him.
Okay, very good. Or what about Krishna? There were so many assumptions made about Krishna that he stole the Shamantaka jewel and killed Prasena. And the gossip, it's that the internet, the social media was going crazy. Right, because they said that Prabhupada said the news was spread throughout Dwarka. So even Krishna gets assumptions. Yes, Mataji.
When Lord Ram's brother Bharat, he was accused that he asked for the kingdom himself, but
yeah, right. Very good. Very good. Okay, so there's so many. Thank you. Okay, so questions as Vaishnava Seva. Now, of course, this is a famous reference from the Upadeshamrita, Kuyam Akyati Prishtiti, to reveal one's mind in confidence and to inquire confidentially. So we're talking here about inquiring confidentially, right? And on another presentation I sometimes make about the importance of friendship in Krishna consciousness, and I like to say that what kind of word is friendship? I mean, is it a noun, a verb, an adjective, an adverb? It's a noun. Yeah, okay. I was just trying to remember. Yeah, but yes, it's a noun. But I like to think of it as a verb. It's something that we often have to work on, and it's so important for our Krishna consciousness. I think the last day we're going to talk about this in more detail. But just, it's so important to have people in our lives, at least one, if not two or three, that we can really reveal everything, be an open book, and know that it's not going to end up on Instagram tomorrow, or that it'll keep confidential, and that there's such a trusting relationship. So this is one of the 6 exchanges, but in some ways, giving people pizza or accepting pizza, that's one of the 6 exchanges. Right? That's kind of easy, right? Even giving gifts, not so hard, especially if it's like not expensive, like bowls of tilak or something. But this is such a main one, such an important one in terms of our. And from the very beginning, when we step foot in the temple to after chanting for 60 years, this remains so important. So questions as Vaishnava Seva, they should come from a genuine. So when we're talking to other devotees, say, "How are you doing? What's on your mind?" It should be a genuine concern. You should really, see it as, we're servants, and one of our main services is to serve devotees. Mahat Sevam Dwara Mahur Vimuktes, right? That the whole, the gates to the spiritual world open for someone who serves devotees, Sadhu Sanga, Sarva Shastra Way, etc. It's so important to be in the mood of serving devotees. And being concerned, obviously curious about what they say. Not like you ask a really good question and then you check your phone. Right? And not assuming we know the answer. You'd be very surprised if you actually listen carefully. And also, listening for content and intent. There's in conflict resolution, we make the distinction between positions, what people say they want, and I'm thinking of an iceberg, so the part of the iceberg that you see, and then underneath the iceberg are interests, why we actually want it. A good example, in a different lifetime, I was a Sankirtan leader, maybe 1979, and I was the brahmachari Sankirtan leader, fired up person, and one of our best book distributors came up to me one day and said, "Prabhu, I'm leaving the ashram." So talk about making assumptions. I immediately thought, oh, well, it must be about a Mataji or a woman or whatever you want to call it. So I started, quoting all of the, Punsastri, Mitini Bhava, Maitam, and really smashing with every verse I knew about material desires. And he said, "Thank you, Hare Krishna." And he walked out the door. His position was, I have to leave the ashram. His interest, I didn't know why. And I made an assumption. A month later, I finally found out what happened. That his parents own a farm, and they got in a car accident. They weren't they're still alive, but they couldn't do the farm work. And so he thought it was really important for him to go there and help out with the farm. So when I found out about that, first of all, I felt terrible. Right? That I didn't let him get a word in edgewise so that he could tell me what was really on his mind. And the other thing was, talk about conflict resolution, we worked out a win-win situation. He could come back to the ashram, do book distribution, and then all the brahmacharis on Monday would go to the farm, and 20 of us would help out, all what needed to be done. And so more work got done than him, one person, and, he was back in the ashram. He was back in the ashram. Should we switch mics? Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna now? Yes. So anyway, that's an example. Sorry about that.
We're struggling, it's not working.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. Whoa, be careful. How about now? Is that all right? Okay, I have to just hold it like karaoke. Okay. I was just in Philippines. Philippines, like the national sport is karaoke. They love it. Yeah. Whenever devotees, they were holding the microphone, I said, "There's just no karaoke." Oh, okay. Right. Yeah. So this is so important, that understanding that for any position a person takes, it's interesting to find out what's fueling that, what's beneath, what's really going on, and we don't know unless we ask good questions. Okay. Any questions on that point?
Well, I have
Yes.
somewhat related little story that happened to me. When I was in Brahmachari, we were not allowed to have anything else but two dhotis, not even jeans.
Uh-huh.
Because the assumption back in 1971 was that if you kept jeans on the side, you were planning to leave.
Right.
To what we call blue.
Right, yeah, I remember blooping. Yeah.
Yeah. So no jeans, no karmic clothes, just your dhotis. That's it. One day I was asked to paint a part of the temple, the stairway or something, and I found somehow an old pair of jeans, and I put them on, and I walked out to go to the hardware store a block away and get some paint, etc. And the temple president saw me from a distance, and he ran after me. And he said, "Don't leave, don't leave."
That's a good one.
Well, I'm only leaving for 10 minutes. Is that all right?
No, that's a good example of making a wrong assumption. Yeah, excellent. Yeah. I'm sure we could go around the room and find all kinds of interesting stories about assumptions that we make. Yeah. But mine was pretty embarrassing. I felt so bad afterwards. It was like I said all the right verses. So it was like operation was successful and the patient died. It was really. Okay, so the problem there's now we're kind of going from Shastra and the first canto and all those great quotes, etc., to like our life and how we ask questions. And there's two basic categories of questions: closed-ended and open-ended. And closed-ended can only be answered yes or no. Okay? So I was trying to think of how to do a little demonstration of this. How are we doing time-wise? Okay. So how to do this? I thought what we do is you have to find out from me by only asking closed-ended questions which university I went to.
Is it in America?
Yes. Is it in America? Yes. Is it in the West Coast? No.
East Coast.
No. South, no. It's pretty far north.
Buffalo.
No, not Buffalo.
Is it in Boston?
No.
Chicago?
No.
Is it one of the top?
No.
Canada?
No. Canada's part. Is it part of America now? Canada? I haven't checked the news today. Is it yeah, it was a popular university. Yes? Is it MIT? No. I'm not that smart.
Michigan?
Yes. Okay, now what would have been another way to find out which university I went to? What's that? Yeah, ask the question, what university did I go to? You see how easier that would be? Yeah. I mean, imagine if Krishnadas Kaviraj wasn't here, we probably could be here for another, till dinner. Right? Possibly. So, closed-ended questions, they don't get you very far, and also I don't know if you feel it like in this sense, but it's almost like you have the responsibility to find the answer. And open-ended questions, what we're talking about here a lot when we're dealing with friends, dealing with a devotee who's having some difficulty, is what we call in the profession helping people help themselves. But asking them questions, often when we're anxious, fearful, depressed, whatever, it's the lower modes of material nature, right? Rajas and tamas. Asking good questions helps a person see things more clearly, rise to the mode of goodness. And Krishna says, sattva sanjayate jnanam, right? From the mode of goodness, knowledge comes. And oftentimes, I can't, 40% of the time, because my job in ISKCON and outside of ISKCON, I work for NASA right now, interestingly enough. People will come with an issue, a problem, and I'll listen to them and ask them these kind of questions, and I'll say, well, so we start talking about what possible solutions. They say, no, it's clear now. Just by being a good listener. It's just like putting like a nice clean mirror in front of somebody and saying, is it like this? Okay? So these are, here's a few examples. It's really easy when you think about it. Open-ended questions begin with what or how, generally. Yeah. So someone comes to you about some issue. So how's that working for you? Imagine how that might help. Or just tell me more. What are the possibilities here? What are you not willing to change? What holds you back? What options do you see? How do you feel you've been treated? How might others see this situation? So, and then here's a list of a lot more questions. I showed you a video last year. I don't know how many remember it. I don't, expect you to. But this one speaker was saying, he just asked the very basic question, that first one there. What's the real challenge here for you? Right? And then the person says it. And then what he says is I have another question for you. And what else? What else is the real challenge here for you? And then they think about that for another minute. And then I've done this hundreds of times. It's amazing. And then after that, I say, I have one more question for you. And what else? What else is the real question? And, their minds start exploding, and the realization that happens almost 90% of the time is what they first said the real challenge is, and the third time they said it is different. So even if we're in the service to Krishna and Prabhupada of giving advice, it's so easy to give great advice for the wrong problem. But taking the time to listen to someone, really try to get from their position to their interest, what's really on their mind, then often it even becomes clear to them what the real challenge is. And then you can, give advice that's actually hitting the mark. Questions on this? Comments? It's really important. You have better eyes than me. I can't even see hands. Yes?
So what happens when they say, I don't know? You ask the question,
Well, if I ask the question, what's the real challenge here for you?
I don't know.
That's interesting. What
That's why I'm here.
What do you not know about?
Well,
I've
I'm just confused, so it's just bewildering. The whole thing's the situation's just bewildering to me, and I really don't know.
Yeah, that sounds
I don't really have an opinion on it. I'm bewildered.
I've never had that. Like 3,000
Never talk to
people.
me, that's the problem.
We'll talk afterwards. I charge by the hour. Because as Maharaj was saying, we have our nature. I'm Jewish. I charge by the hour.
Could we ask these questions to ourselves?
Yes, we can certainly ask these questions to ourselves. Yes. Yeah, they're powerful questions. Clarification. What is the part that is not clear? That might be a good question for you, Lakshmi. What is it that's not clear? Then there's elaboration questions. What else? What other ideas do you have? Then there's history questions. What caused it? What led up to this? And there's prediction questions. how do you suppose it'll all work out? There's option questions. What are the possibilities? What will happen if you do? What will happen if you don't? Yes, Lakshmi?
Question, can you make them bigger, because I can't see them?
You just had cataract surgery. You can't see? I probably can't make it bigger right now, but I can share the PowerPoint. Examples, for instance, outcomes. What is your desired outcome? What do you want? And then, etc. Questions are so powerful in terms of, as we can see in Shastra and making spiritual advancement, they're also really so powerful in terms of interpersonal relationships and really helping people think more clearly about what's going on in their life and how they can best address whatever is going on. Other comments, questions? Yes, Prabhu.
Sorry, Prabhu. One time I was told that, with the questioning, that you ask too many questions, but you don't give any answer for them, especially in a conversation where a person is searching for genuine answers. Sometimes open-ended questions can be vague and, they don't take you anywhere, and especially when there's no reciprocation. So what do you do in such situations?
Well, the saying is, has anyone, first of all, raise your hand and actually do this, if you've ever been given advice that you didn't ask for. Okay, yeah, all right. And what's so funny about that? Just because everyone raised their hand? Good exercise. Now, if that person who gave you advice if you really trust that person, that's one thing. Let's leave that aside for a second, that person, okay? Because, like I can think of, friend, like if one of my best friends, Brahma Tirtha, if he just says, Brad, you're an idiot, why'd you do that stupid thing? I take it like love, it's just flowers, right? But a lot of us, I'm sure, are laughing because we got unsolicited advice that we really didn't need at that time, okay? So the first thing is, let's say we are giving advice. So the saying in counseling field is, don't give advice until you're hired. Someone asks you for it, okay? But assuming that they're asking you for that. See, let's go back to Prabhupada's famous letter to Karandar Prabhu. How many of you are familiar with the famous letter to Karandar Prabhu? It's so famous that 3 people know it. Okay. It's probably the Mahavakya letter in terms of management. And in that, he says the famous line that we want to make devotees independently thoughtful. Okay?
Which ran contrary to the ISKCON Arctic.
It ran contrary to, every temple president I had, at least in the 70s, yeah. And what to speak of, you joined in 71, so you really, have that. So we want to first ask questions to help people, be clear about what's going on, right? Then, if they ask for advice, that's great, because now we have a clear idea of where to give the advice, not here, but here. You see? So we're not saying, Prabhu Bihari just gave a talk on not preaching, not giving. It's all I'm saying is let's preach that's effective. It's just like, sometimes we'll talk to somebody, and I feel like, Canadians know about this. A shotgun, it shoots out like shrapnel. And so, like if I shoot it out to the wall there, it might hit the target. The target might be this big, right? And sometimes we're speaking to someone, when we kind of close our eyes, shoot some Krishna consciousness at them, and we hope something hits, right? But when we talk to someone and we listen to them, and we hear about their needs, their interests and concerns, then this whole vast Krishna conscious philosophy, we can take that part that really is going to help them and be more like a laser than a shotgun, right? And apply it. And I learned that really wonderfully when I was first trained in book distribution by Prabhu, the Prabhupada disciple, not the GBC in Ireland and England. Yeah, and so the first time he took me out, I was just a kid, we were at the airport, And he met somebody who, he said, so what's your occupation? And the man said, I'm a carpenter. And so Prabhu said, oh, so you're a carpenter. So you just gather up some wood, get some nails, and you just start cutting and nailing, right? And the guy said, no, you have to have a blueprint. You have to plan it. And Prabhu said, that's exactly what this book is. This book is a blueprint of the universe. You know, and so he it was amazing how he was so good at relating whatever the person was into Prabhupada's books. Does that answer your question? Yes, Mataji. One second, you have such a soft voice, we want to hear it.
I just want you to repeat that what Prabhupada's later, I missed it. In the
Okay. He said a number of things in that letter, but one of the things was he said that we should train the devotees to be independently thoughtful. There's actually more to that sentence if anyone knows it exactly. But then he also presented the, what is it? Individual, spontaneous, and voluntary? Is that right? Yes. So he said how bhakti should be, and that a good leader challenges the devotees to bring out their devotion and their endeavors to please Krishna. The art of, so he was talking basically about the art of management. I think it was 1972 to a devotee named Karandar Prabhu. That's a really wonderful letter. Yeah. Yes? You want to, should we read? It's a long letter, so you want to just read the essential parts?
Just the sentence. Krishna consciousness movement is for training men to be independently thoughtful and competent in all types of departments of knowledge and action, not for making bureaucracy.
Yeah. And you notice that it's for men, not women. That was a joke. Don't throw the tomatoes. Was there a question? Yes.
Hare Krishna. Prabhu, you touched on a very important aspect about a question just a few minutes ago was trust.
Trust, yes.
So when question is being asked, the person asking the question and the person whom the question is being asked, that trust needs to be there, that there will be no judgment and there will be no consequences if the question is being asked. How is that trust built?
How is trust built?
Yes. So that I can ask a question or somebody can come and ask me a question.
Okay. So did you hear the class this morning? Before me? Maharaj's class?
I attended the last 10 minutes of it.
Okay. And did you trust him as someone that you could learn from?
Yes.
Why?
Because I heard so much about him before.
Okay. Okay, so that was one thing you heard.
Yes.
Yeah. Good. Anything else?
I would say that.
Okay.
It's a primary reason.
Yeah, that's an interesting one because we have to be a little careful about that, only because the opposite also is true. Right? What's your name?
Sudarshan Das.
Sudarshan Das. Yeah. So what if Prabhu, you got to be a little careful about this Sudarshan guy. He's going to be here at the festival. Troublemaker. Big problem. Have you ever met him? No, you haven't met him. So just beware. So now he's got that in his mind, right? And when he meets you, he's already got Yeah. So it's good though when we hear, as Maharaj was saying, when we hear positive things about Vaishnavas, that's really good. That's really good. So you did develop trust by hearing. That's one way to develop trust. Any other ideas how we develop trust? Yes.
Develop trust by asking the right questions, actually.
You develop trust by asking the right questions, okay?
If someone comes like you just said, did you hear about Sudarshan? You could say, where did you hear about? I mean, is it true? Do you know that for a fact? Or what substantiates what you're saying?
Okay. Also, yes, what else develops trust?
You develop trust by looking at that person, right? Like whatever they say.
Like how nice their tilak is?
It's there in their behavior, right?
Their behavior.
Because how Maharaj is also listening to the class, So yeah.
Yeah, it's
that's
embarrassing
how we
to me,
develop
but
trust.
what can I do? Yes. Yes. So yes, we walk our talk, or as they say in New York, we walk our talk. Yeah. Yes. Walk our talk. It's not a Canadian thing.
Yes.
By the way, interesting, tomorrow what we're going to talk about is, and it's very Canadian. You ready for this? It's the power of apologies. It's a Canadian thing, Marge, if you didn't know that, yeah. The number one word in the Canadian language is sorry. Right? So I thought it was really appropriate, so I did a special presentation on apologies. Gosh, so many hands. Okay, yes, Mataji.
You can build trust by seeing how the devotee interact with others.
Interaction with others. Yeah, beautiful. Nice. Yes. Yes, Prabhu.
You can build trust by going to the source that you believe in. There is something that you believe in. It could be a book, it could be a person, it could be what you see. Right?
Yeah.
The source of information.
What's that famous statement in Bhagavad Gita about trust and sublime? Does anyone know the exact sentence? Can you find it, Krishnadas Prabhu? Look for the word sublime. What is it? Sarva karma kritoy, I think, is what he's referring to, but it's a very wonderful, just one sentence. Okay, does that answer your question, Prabhu, about trust? We've got all these great answers now.
Partially. So, partially in the sense because yes, okay, God, that is how the trust is being made. But what I'm saying is like the first initial step, when I have the microphone here and I'm asking you a question, I've developed trust in you because I heard about you.
Okay.
But now the environment, people might be judging, others might be judging me, and people might be asking, I might move out of the room and they might say, what a stupid question you asked, you're supposed to know this. You've been here for so long, you know. What about that fear in the mind?
Kya kare? What to do? I already planted all these seeds of people not wanting to talk to you.
So just to give you a background to the reason why I asked that question was because
I think there sounds like there's something behind this. Go ahead.
The only reason I was asking this question is because we go to so many different programs where there's so many audience. They don't ask questions at all. The reason why I asked that was because what can I do in these programs so that people start asking questions? Am I doing something wrong?
Thank you. Now we're getting to somewhere. Well, one thing is to be comfortable with silence. What I mean by that is you say any questions, and then you just zip your mouth, and you wait. And usually, 90% of the time, that minute seems like 100 years. You know, that silence. But usually somebody, gets the nerve to raise their hand. But the speaker should create an atmosphere where people feel comfortable to ask questions. Because often, if somebody asks a question, there's 5 other people who have the same question in their mind, but they're too afraid to ask it. Yeah. So there's responsibility on both ends. But one thing is silence is actually powerful. Did you find the quote, Marge?
Yeah, Karmani 241.
Okay, hold on. Let's. There you go.
So this is Bhagavad Gita 241. Faith means unflinching trust in something sublime.
Yeah, faith means unflinching trust in something sublime. And what does sublime mean? This is the one time you can use your phone. Yeah, but isn't that a beautiful?
Wonderful, something wonderful.
I think it's more subtle than wonderful. Comforting? Outstanding excellence. So unflinching trust in something sublime. Isn't that beautiful? Such a nice sentence.
Elevated or lofty in thought, language, impressing the mind with a sense of grandeur,
Wow.
inspiring awe, veneration, supreme or outstanding, complete, absolute, utter.
Yeah. We learned so much English from Prabhupada. I remember, just using Prabhupada isms when I met my brother, a couple of years after being a devotee. And he's like, where did you get this vocabulary from? It's really quite amazing. How are we doing? Well, don't worry, I will start up on time. You can't fight with Prasadam. Yes, Mataji. Repeat.
Repeat the last sentence you said.
The last sentence I said. I can't compete with Prasadam?
brother said.
Oh, about what my brother said. He was just so impressed with, my using Prabhupada's vocabulary. Because, the other thing is that, that's a whole other thing about ISKCONisms. Anyway, one time we were trying to stay awake. We were driving on Sankirtan somewhere, and me and another devotee, we were just going through all the kind of ISKCONisms. Oh, Prabhu, I'm really fried, because I'm just toasted. It's just to the max because, it's just such a bummer, just go on and on. Yeah, so there's some also words that maybe didn't come from Prabhupada that we found interesting. Shall we carry on? All right. We did that exercise. And this is the question. This is the question that changed all of our lives. It was the one question Prabhupada said he asked his Guru Maharaj. And because of that question, we're all sitting here today. Right? Isn't it? He said that was the only question he asked his Guru Maharaj. Yes, Prabhu.
And Bhaktisiddhanta when his disciples would come before him, he would say, "Das was me. I'm your servant. How can I serve you?"
Yeah. So Prabhupada asked, how did he unpack the answer to that question? Right? It's just amazing. When you think about it, it is the essential question. After Ke Ami, who am I? Well, Jivera Swarupahaya Krishnara Nityadas. I'm Krishna's servant. Okay, how can I serve? One of the best instructions I've ever gotten, and I'm not very good at applying it after many decades, but His Grace Purijan Prabhu told me once that at any given moment during the day, you can ask yourself, what's my service? In this situation, whatever it is, if I'm taking prasadam, what's my service? Oh, I should honor prasadam. If devotees are talking kind of not very good Krishna conscious topics, what's my service here? Should I walk away? Should I change the subject to something Krishna conscious? Whatever, throughout the day we can be asking, what's my service? Because we're servants. That's our swarup, like sugar is sweet and chili is hot. So that's their swarup. So our swarup is Krishna's servant. Yes, Prabhu.
Instead of what would Jesus do in our case?
Yeah, what would Jesus do? Yeah, what would Prabhupada do? What would Krishna do? Well, what would Prabhupada do? Yeah, like that, yes. So I was just thinking about that question changes the course of human nature, of human society. So powerful. Yes?
By contrast, the materialistic civilization, which is actually asuric, pushing God aside and trying to take control, their motto is, how can everyone serve me?
Yeah.
How can I be fulfilled?
Yeah.
How can I enjoy? How can I control? So it's totally opposite.
I always liked how Prabhupada would say that, but the servant enjoys almost on the same level as the master. And I remember I had a personal experience of that. I was staying at a very wealthy person's house in Delhi for maybe 2 weeks, 3 weeks. I was on a writing kind of retreat, and it was a good place to just no interruptions. So I saw that very wealthy people, and they would during the day they'd all go out to work, and before they went out to work, all the servants were there, and they were just like at attention, and whatever they needed, they would jumped and got them this and cooked that and cleaned this and all that sort of stuff, right? Just totally in the mood of servant, right? But then when the owners left, they turned on the television, they cooked for themselves, they kicked their feet up, and they were enjoying on the same level as the master in a lot of ways. It was very interesting to see that every day. Yeah. Okay. Anything else? We have 10 minutes. Well, oh yeah, okay. You're going to get your 10,000 steps in today.
Hare Krishna. So,
So if a person is too angry or if he's feeling too low, is this the right situation to ask question, or he has to wait for his situation to come normal and then ask the question?
That's a great question. A wonderful question. The answer is it depends. So many answers is, depends on desha, kala, patra, the time, place, and circumstance. Often, having our heart in the right place and our tone of voice, even being, showing compassion, showing care, it's a perfect time to say, or at least we sometimes call it opening the door and see if they want to walk in. So, if anything's on your mind, I have time, I'd be happy to talk. That's kind of just opening the door, seeing if they're interested. Or just like saying, what's going on? It could be as simple as that, and see if they're interested in having that discussion. We can be really helpful in helping a person, especially when they're really kind of, like you're saying, kind of lower in the modes. But at other times, some people need some distance. So you try, you offer, and then it's up to them whether they're ready for that. But I have found that to be really helpful, especially if I get in the right mindset. The other thing about asking questions and listening to people, the next topic is listening, is you have to have the time to do it. You can't be looking at your watch and saying, oh, geez, I can't believe I started this conversation and now, right? You actually have to set aside the time to serve that devotee. Is that all right? So we can talk a little bit about I wasn't going to get into a lot about listening, but this letter is this is the Mahavakya for listening and even for conflict resolution. This is the greatest letter. This is, it's just like the Karandar letter for management. This is the Prabhupada letter to Balavanta Prabhu for a lot of interpersonal things. Now I want that we shall recruit more and more our men amongst the intelligent class of men. They, because they are little educated, or they have got some wealth or fame or ability, so they will be sometimes little puffed up. But that's all right, they deserve it. I love that sentence. Yeah, they deserve it. It's their karma. Now we shall have to learn the art of how to approach such higher class of men and attract them to apply themselves to this Krishna consciousness. That requires much tact. What does tact mean? Being tactical. Okay, well that's great. Answer a question with a question. Skillful. Okay. And we shall have to expect to meet all challenges by sharp minds. But if we remain always absorbed in remembering Lord Chaitanya, how he converted so many intelligent men, even sitting for 7 days and nights to hear them speak without himself speaking anything. Could you imagine the Supreme Personality of God, Lord Chaitanya, actually sat for 7 days and nights listening to Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya? Isn't that, when you think about it, isn't that a little mind-blowing, as we would say in the 60s? It blows my mind. And if we remember how Krishna was so patient to explain everything to Arjuna, even Arjuna was speaking like a fool. In this way, being always tolerant of others, and this is the main sentence, and appreciating their points of view. Now, if you know, several of the devotees here can tell you what college students in the 1970s, their point of view was 4 things: drugs, sex, rock and roll, and Mayavad philosophy. That was their point of view. Right? Is that a pretty good summary? Yeah. But he said if we appreciate their point of view, tolerant, it'll be an easy matter for us to convince them gradually to join us. So the power of listening here, even in outreach and helping others become Krishna conscious, so powerful. This letter for me. Yeah, there he is. 7 days and nights. So a few tips about listening to others. Physically, remove digital barriers. Don't put one of the best things you can do to show that you really are going to listen to somebody is turn off your phone. Then that's really convincing them. Or at least put it down and don't, if it rings, don't answer it. Eye contact, helpful. Just being observing of non-verbal cues. You know, only when you to communicate emotions, only 7% are the words you choose. Isn't that amazing? 38% is your tone of voice, and the rest is your body language. 55% is your body language. So you know, it's like, for example, everyone. Okay, here's a good example. I want you to be actors. We don't have Bhakti Marg Swami here, but use your body right now to show me that you're really, really bored. That's pretty good. Pretty good. All right, yes. You know, you read it, you learn a lot by body language. You know, how did Lord Chaitanya show Sanatana Goswami his lack of appreciation for the fancy chadar he had? He had a fancy shawl, right? Did he say anything to him? He just kept looking at it, right? Just kept looking at I don't know how he did it, you know, but he just kept looking at, and Sanatana Goswami got the message, right? And then he went down to the river and traded for, you know, ripped up one, yeah, tattered one. Yeah, so you learn a lot. Or actually, after Parvati had cursed Chitraketu, and then Lord Shiva glorified Chitraketu, Narayana Parasarve Nakutaschanya Biditi. Just look at how wonderful Vaishnavas are. So what did she do? She just took her sari and covered her head. She didn't say anything. But that said it all. It said a lot. Right? Okay, and manage our internal dialogue. In other words, there shouldn't be a lot going on. You know how, does anyone ever have the experience that when the other person's talking, you're thinking what you're going to say next? Yeah, so try to turn that off and really focus on listening to them. And like we said, listen to the interests underlying the positions. And then verbally, you can use encouraging prompts, like, really? Interesting? Acha? I remember I taught this once and people just didn't get it. It was at a law school in India. And the person just started saying, well, I'm seriously considering. The person, acha? Wrong. Yeah. Paraphrasing, summarizing is a great thing to do, by the way. It shows so much respect for the other person. You listen so carefully to them that you can actually feed back to them what they said in the right situation. And asking open-ended questions. And I guess in the last 1 minute, tips on what to avoid while listening. Thinking what you're going to say next. We already said that. Interrupting, jumping to conclusions and premature judgment. Criticizing and comparison. I love that Maharaj is going to develop that more, because I've been thinking about that a lot lately. I've been trying to say, instead of like, this is the best sabji, that means it's comparison, right? Why not just say, oh, this is a really nice subject. That was the best class. You know, that was the worst class, whatever. You know, why does everything always have to be comparing it to something else? I know your I think is going to take it from a slightly different angle, the comparison, but I was thinking of that. Giving premature or unrequested advice. Moving to problem solving too quickly, and talking a lot about yourself. My favorite one. Okay, so I will follow in Maharaj's footsteps and end right on time. So tomorrow we will discuss apologies, so I'm sorry about that, but we have to do it, okay? Hare Krishna, all glories to Srila Prabhupada.